You see, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve. Judas readings for Virginia de Araujo. Working class liberty. A child is born into a world larger than its eyes, hungry for the knowledge hidden only by its size, soaring o'er the fields and covering every tree. It knows the meaning of pleasure. The last time that it is free. The child which is happiness, once free to love its life, is cast amidst others, sorrow, conflict, and strife. The creature learns its words, forced to search for meaning, smiling with the pain, finds its self is screaming. Ah! Ah! Yeah! Something old, something red, something cold from something dead. Marriage binds it to another as it graduates a slave by giving oath to obey and cherish to the grave. A prison with a lunch, holidays, and a yard. Remembering the days when it would run, vibrant beneath the stars. Now it's stuck in traffic, imprisoned by its car. I wouldn't know what to do if I caught one. Ha ha. The child that it sacrificed is given a child too. Dimly aware it has the eyes, but fresh, they're proud and true. Granted its retirement, dead and dying fast. Muttering to itself alone, a child again, alas. Working class liberty. Oh. 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 Now this one sounds pretty nice. I thought of you. I was sitting alone today. I remembered talking in the grass. You touched me carelessly as you talked about happiness. I looked at you and watched as you talked about nonsense. I couldn't look away. I was trapped by feeling. tried to focus upon which sense I loved most about you. I still can't. I love your skin. I love your lips. I love your voice. I love your scent. I love your eyes. And in the memory, as I loved you, I thought about how when we'd have our first son, we'd plant a tree. And how, as the spring leaves would open to the sun, so he would to the world. And when he'd become a man, he'd lean against that tree and smoke. And maybe he and I would talk. And if we didn't, I'd still love him. I'd hold you, and through the window, we could both love him. And so went my memory. So when you hear me say, I was thinking of you today, please don't think of me poorly, because even then, I thought of you. Oh, here's an adult memoir. An adulthood memoir. Oh my good golly. You see, you've gone through all these levels of childlike adolescent thought processes and working so hard to understand how other people think that finally when you get to the end of the story, you get it, an adulthood memoir. Here's to you, Virginia de Araujo. I'm gonna have to pick this one up. The warm, humid spring mornings are an excellent time to be in Iraq. Seemed second only to the nights. Sure, they're the dirty desert winds, but the mornings aren't uncomfortably hot, and spring winds are comparatively gentler than winters. Spring '91 was especially pleasant since Desert Storm was winding down. Winding down? You ever wonder, what's all the secret behind that? Suit wasn't cheap. You ought to know. You bought it. It's camel hair. There's camel hair. That's your secret. Who did the guy come from before he became what he is? The toadies sing, I come from the water. I say, I come from the desert. And there's not much of a better place than that. The fighting was finished other than sporadic squads of Iraqis riding around piled into truck beds. They were attacking people and getting themselves killed. Opaque light filled the sky above the horizon as I drove Major Temple through an area known to be riddled with corpses. I was alert. From a great distance, I saw a truck ahead on the right shoulder. As I closed the distance, it became evident that there were two people in the cab. I saw, too, that there were others. They were scattered on the ground away from the freeway, taking twisted naps. Starting with the truck, everything around it was burned. Although the glass had all been blown out of the truck, its trees remained inflated and in decent condition. The truck had been hit with a Hellfire missile from an AH-64 Apache helicopter. The characteristics of the corpses were becoming discernible. Clothes and shoes had been burned from some of them, flesh and feet from others. The figures in the cab were plain to see. The man in the passenger seat was sitting upright with his head tilted back and to the side. I thought he must have been resting, planning to drive later, and my mind smiled in remembrance of road trips with the boys. The driver looked as though he was trying to tell someone a secret. His chest was pressed to the inside front of the flat-nosed flatbed truck. His face and right hand were poking through where the blown-out windshield should have been. He still had his face, but his head had been burned clean, other than a mohawk of turned hair, burned face, and flesh on top. His face was cooked and flaking. His hand had been burned into a fist that clenched the outside of the cab. Apparently, he had tried to crawl from the fire filling the air about him. He didn't make it. Considering it, I decided even if there's no hellish afterward, he experienced his own private hell here. That club hand caught my attention. I instantly thought of how I could wedge a match between the fingers, use another to light the first, and light a cigarette off it as the match flares high. Then someone gets a picture of me getting a light off a burnt guy. Art presents itself. Nobody asks for art. Art presents itself. As we were driving past the scene, I thought, light my lucky, and a slow grin started off my face. Still looking, Major Temple appealed in poor temper. It's a goddamn shame. That's that awful waste of human life, ain't it, Elderquist? My slow grin almost burst into laughter at the irony derived from the dissonance of our thought patterns. I drove and looked out to the left of the Hummer to conceal my silent laughter. I wondered who would lend me a cigarette to use in the picture. For Virginia Araujo. And the thing is, that's an adulthood memoir. In her things, I will read one from her momentarily. She added, she was the instructor of everything. This whole, what are you gonna be? What are you gonna write? Make us write things about something. And well, she had us write a childhood memoir before that one. And if you wonder why somebody acts so happy about seeing corpses all over the fucking place, it's because, well, somewhere in our youth, we were told on a school bus where a kid was sitting in the back, one of the bad kids, and he had pictures that he brought to school that his grandfather had taken in World War II when they went in and liberated a concentration camp. And there were pictures of dead people everywhere, and they were naked and skinny and hungry, very much like me before I get in the shower. And they were as gray as the cinder block behind them on an overcast day. And one of them had a picture of a penis. The man's penis was in there. And all the kids in the back of the bus laughed and laughed and made jokes about that. And I didn't think about that. What I thought was, wow, if only one day I could go to war and take pictures of dead people, then my grandkids, oh, they could be as cool as Dwayne Smolars at this very moment. Time transcends. Time is not a puzzle, it's a line. And so, as I get there and I write this, you look at it. Of the pictures I got of these dead people, one of them had a man's penis in it. Oh, I can't stop now. Just an odd coincidence that it happened to have a dog bite out of its ass. The clothes were cooked off and the ass was exposed, and there was a dog bite. You could see the teeth marks in it. Oh, the dogs over there, they eat people. They eat camels. They eat what's available, because living in the desert is not the easiest thing to do. I do want to read one from Virginia de Araujo. If only I can find it. Oh, and here we go. 18. Araujo. We're about to read this. See how it plays out. Pardon me while I clear my throat. Reading this first line, I had my baby. I'm driven to go on and say, yes, of course, these are two very different people's points of view. We go from a joy of death to someone pressing the joy of life. I think I picked something up from her. I had my baby, rose and blue. The sun was dark, the moon was dark, and no one came. She rode the spillway to the sea. I named my baby after you. Torn twigs from juniper, rain smells, damp brick, cloud cover bending, the spill that pools on sidewalks and blackened streets. People who walk upright as if they had only 2 feet. Dogs who teach the way that down quilts, mat, under hip like an extra skin. Spirits that lie over us and breathe. Book dust on the tongue, the dry tongue, the water god we drink, the cure for anything, said Dynison. Salt water, sweat, tears, or the sea. First food gulped after deep hunger, the mouth so full the food sticks between floor and roof, clotting teeth, and then descends like prayer, the thirst that is never satisfied. When the child is being born and the drugs wear off, feeling seeps back as pain. Then the little girl emerges in drapes of blood. Its lie an exhausted mat on the mother's abdomen. To sink smells. Mother and child grow chill. Ammonia, indigo, anil. The surgeon has made the unnecessary cut with a scalpel, burns it with iodine and stitches to take her a tight fit, make her a tight fit for the male. Because it is Sunday, the morning rains 7 tears. Camellia float in a Pyrex dish where the windsill shimmers. The mother gives the baby the same name as her own mother because the mother lost her own mother too soon and misses her face and wants her back again. The child is Shay. I guess what we have to wonder is at one point, which point the teacher wonders if the student should be in her class. It's a Judas reading. The jester steals the crown.